India. Over the next 2 days, we will explore how reading ecosystems, school pedagogy, digital innovations, and partnerships can shape generations to come. Before we dive deeper into our sessions, it is my privilege in the august presence of Director NBT, Shri Yuvraj Malik, to acknowledge and honor the distinguished dignitaries who have joined us today, leaders, visionaries, and change makers who have dedicated their efforts to building a reading nation. To begin this special moment, I would now like to request the Director of the National Book Trust and CEO of New Delhi World Book Fair, Shri Yuvraj Malik, to kindly felicitate our Honorable Chief Guest, Shri Sanjay Kumar Sir. Sir, I would request you to kindly felicitate Honorable Shri Rajshekhar Joshi, sir. Sir, I request you again to kindly felicitate Honorable Shri Rajshekhar Joshi, sir. Now, Honorable Srimati Archana Sharma Avasthi, ma'am. Thank you, sir. Now, I would invite our dignitaries to share their thoughts on the vision and importance of building a reading culture in our country. I would like to invite the Director, NBT, and CEO, New Delhi World Book Fair, Shri Yuvraj Malik, for the welcome address.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Respected Secretary School Education and Literacy, Sri Sanjay Kumar ji, Sri Rajshekhar Joshi ji, Vice Chairman, Setu Ayog, Government of Uttarakhand, our Additional Secretary, Srimati Archana Sharma Avasthi ji, teachers, faculties, academicians, and people associated with the world of reading, books, and publishing. It's a great pleasure and matter of delight for me to stand here and welcome and give an opening remark for a topic which is the foundational stone of any society, the future of books, the future of reading, and issues contemplating, and most importantly, reading India's Samvāad. This is in Samvāad means a dialogue that has to start on a platform which is the highest platform of books in India, New Delhi World Book Fair. This year, we have 1,000 plus publishers right here with 3,000 plus stalls, 600 plus literary activities happening. But the bigger question is why? What are we doing? Are we just doing trade? No. It's not an act of profit. It's not act of any specific monetization. It's an act of purpose, a purpose of life that we are trying to give to our generations, to our society, and our foundational learning. This 2 days of dialogue is primarily aimed for two things, where we meet people and discuss about reading practices, reading pattern, how do we contemplate on them and make strategies that really become a framework for reading promotion in the country. We all know that a society which doesn't read doesn't progress. A society which doesn't read can't think much. It becomes stagnant. When we think, what happens? If you realize very seriously, you become alone. When you become alone while reading, you start thinking. So when you start thinking, you start putting questions. When you start putting questions, you start creating an element of curiosity within yourself. And that is the foundation of a human being. Curiosity, and that has taken us from this place to space and from all the walks of the world and explore new dimensions. So the idea of learning starts with curiosity, and curiosity starts with reading. So the more we read, more we get to know that how less we know. When we read, we start asking questions. We start looking on books and literature like a mirror. And I'm sure you all know mirror don't lie. Mirrors never lie. They always give you the right picture, right perspective, and a very clarity of thought that we all need being a human being. Three examples I was remembering when I was thinking, why should we read? Let's go to history and just think three issues. When Alexander was coming for Vish Vijay Abhiyan, he went to his guru, teacher. What should I do when I go for world victory? मैं पूरे दुनिया को जीतने के लिए निकलने जा रहा हूँ विश्व विजय के लिए. तो what is your advice to me? Please help me. You know what was his advice? Aristotle gave him a book on Homer and told, when you feel ferocious with the violence in war, or you feel indecisive and you can't take decision, read this book, it will help you. And trust me, if you read Alexander's biography, you will find that he carried that book till Jhelum. He carried that book till Jhelum and always slept with it next to the pillow. Next person I want to talk about is Chandragupta. When Chandragupta was being groomed to become Magad Samvāad, and that Maurya dynasty was being set up, the only thing that gave Chanakya was Chanakya Niti scriptures in the form of a book to him. This is what that will help you to become a responsible king. So to make a king or to make a citizen, we need to make them read. Another example I want to share here, because I can talk anything, but we should understand, if we have to understand history, the history of the world is in the history of books. Third example is Napoleon Bonaparte. When he went on all campaigns, he has forbidden everything, cooks, chefs, everything. He only carried two people with him. One was his personal attendant who used to organize his daily routine, and second was a librarian. 3 big carts of books used to go with him in war. Whereas in the Mughal history, you know what they used to carry with them. So that is the difference between greatness and expansion. We must understand very categorically, to understand the importance of the subject that we are taking today. If we do not have books, literature into our life and civilization, anybody will come and change our thoughts. Anybody will come change our culture. Anybody will give us their own part of history to us. So if you want to stand tall in the community, you have to have foundation of book and book reading. By making our younger generation read, you're all people, big influencers from schools, colleges, and you have a responsibility to make your generation read. 280 words can't define our story. Story of India is in thousands and millions of words. So we have to find the right size of content, provide them the good content, and in next 2 days, we should be able to figure out at least 5 to 10 strategies or 5 to 10 best practices of reading that can become a framework for country to implement them. For example, UP government has initiated a very good path-breaking decision of putting the first period in class a mandatory reading of newspaper. If you can't read, let's start with newspaper, which is relevant to our life. But the bigger question is, where is that newspaper? Who is producing them? Are we going to produce student-centric newspaper? Yes, some of them are doing it. So we have to curate news, we have to create content, and BT is willing to take some responsibility in its mandate to take up the issues where we can fulfill these gaps. We can create content in the languages the children want. We are doing book fair not only here, all part of the country. More than 3 crore people are connected directly with us. We are not able to do book fair in district level, we are going by wheel, book on wheel concept. But somehow we have to make our generations read. In this complete process, we have to accept and understand with a lot of clarity, that content will be the key. If the content is not powerful, if the content is not engaging, we can teach and tell anything to a student or a young mind, you read, he will never read. It is only the power of content that will make a complete generation as readers. Today, there's a lot of overload on information, social media. The content is flowing just like anything. But is it worth? We have to get into serious reading if we want thoughts and ideas. Because unless and until we have thoughts and ideas, it's just an informed person, not an educated or not a person with opinion on ideologies. We have to be very, very clear in our process how we do make reading as institutional process in the country. Without taking much of time, I just feel that last year school division has taken a very good initiative, sir, the bagless days. I'm happy to share that more than 350 schools have taken this decision to send their delegation and celebrated their bagless days with us. So that was our outreach. It could happen because the ministry and the Department of School Education could communicate them that this is a part of learning. And that is what National Education Policy also says, to provide quality content, make it accessible, make it affordable, make it in all possible languages and age appropriate. That's how NEP has also aimed to create a reading society. So without taking much of time, I will just thank Secretary School Education Sanjay sir for his gracious presence to lead this initiative of Reading India campaign. This is the first initiative, and I'm sure, sir, we will institutionalize it. And we will bring some documentation that will give guideline to all the schools. And now we are trying to put in a mechanism where we have at least one reading officer in each school, so that become a nodal point between us and the school and institution. And then we can give them support in the form of workshops, through storytelling, through other workshops and creative activities, competitions, and then it become a functional thing that we start reading. I also thank Shri Rajshekhar Joshi ji. He has come all the way to promote reading and be part of this session, sir. I am personally grateful for your kind presence. And special thanks to our additional secretary, who is the force behind this conceptualization that's let us put reading in the forefront. And the initiative of e-learning, that is a new batch, Rashtriya Pustakalaya, has taken a big leap under her leadership, with 6,000 plus books which are being given free of cost to all the participants who scan our app, Rashtriya E-Pustakalaya. Ma'am, thank you so much for your guidance and time to time course corrections to take it. So I'll just say, हमें किताबें पढ़नी होंगी. अगर हम किताबें नहीं पढ़ेंगे तो हम व्यक्ति रह जाएंगे, व्यक्तित्व कभी नहीं बन पाएंगे. हमारे पास दृष्टि तो होगी लेकिन कभी दृष्टिकोण नहीं होगा. हमारे पास दृष्टि होगी लेकिन दृष्टिकोण नहीं होगा. तो that thing we have to be very clear if you want personality from a person, and if you want a sense of direction from being non-directed, we have to read, and read at least 10 pages a day, if not 10, at least 1 page a day, because that is the best recipe for mental health, which is the major crisis nowadays in the social media era. Thank you so much, and happy reading, and wish you a great New Delhi World Book Fair festivity. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now I would like to invite respected Srimati Archana Sharma Avasthi, Additional Secretary, Ministry of Education. She is an 1994 IRS officer who has been associated with Department of School Education and Literacy for the past 3 years as the Additional Secretary. One of her portfolio is Rashtriya E-Pustakalaya. She is an avid book lover, and not a lot of people know that she translates books from Hindi to English. I request you, ma'am, to please address the audience.
This is too high for me. The podium itself is very high. Secretary Shri Sanjay Kumar ji, VC Setu Ayog Shri Joshi ji, Shri Yuvraj Malik, Director National Book Trust, and all the audience present here, a very warm welcome to all of you. I am actually thrilled to be speaking here, because ये एक ऐसी जगह है जब ये प्रगति मैदान हुआ करता था और सालों से NBT बुक फेयर लगा रहा है. I have been a regular visitor here with my family, and it was a chore to be done कि बुक फेयर लग रहा है, साल भर उसका इंतज़ार करना है और वहाँ फैमिली के साथ जाके दिन भर बिताना है, बुक्स खरीदनी है. So in fact I remember that before coming at home we used to decide कि इतना बजट होगा, आज इतने की बुक्स खरीदी जाएंगी, इतनी 4 सबको अलाउड है और 2 घंटे में वापस आना है. But believe me, when we came back, each of these were breached. कोई बजट का प्रावधान काम नहीं आता था, नंबर ऑफ बुक्स तो भूल ही जाइए. Then somebody suggested you should go with a roller suitcase with you in the exhibition, because carrying bags also becomes a huge thing. The carpets were used to sit. I still see that when I come every year, that families are resting on the carpets, having their lunch and all. So it's a very overwhelming feeling to be speaking here in the same festival. Thank you, Yuvraj, for calling me. I feel that there are various and different little ways to enrich and enlarge the learning and the viewpoint of your children, and one of them is to create a reading habit for them. That's one of the biggest contribution that the parents can have in the life of their children. Because like he said कि दृष्टि तो होगी पर दृष्टिकोण नहीं होगा, उसके लिए आपको पढ़ना बहुत ज़रूरी है. पढ़ना with comprehension is also very necessary. In our school days, I remember, this is because he said we have to find out 5 to 10 ways of how we go ahead. So our English teacher, it's mostly the literature teacher in your school who puts this habit of reading and the love for reading in you. So she used to have one period every week where each child used to come with his or her favorite story that they have read, or a novel or any kind of book, and then share what he or she learned from it. And then the others used to borrow, whoever found that interesting. So within 1 month, we had many books to read and choose from. Out of, I see the students here also, parents, teachers, everybody. How many of you read at least one book per month? At least one. So it's not much. We need to increase that number. There are challenges like 52 weeks, 52 books in a year, or 2 books a month, which go on, which are a fad. But let's move from that fad and have that habit. Reading a book will never let you down. If it's not interesting, leave it. Cut your losses short, don't complete it, pick up another one which you find interesting. Maybe the ones you start with are not that deep or intellectual, no problem. Maybe for a child it's a Nandan or a Suman Saurabh or whatever books are coming now, or a Amar Chitrakatha, but start with that. Most of us who are here above age of 40-50, I think our first learnings came from Amar Chitrakathas, from where we knew about our history also and religion also and everything. So give that gift to your children to read, how to read. So like he said, one of the methods that we have come up with, it was the idea of Honorable Prime Minister, and our Minister and Secretary has led the initiative of Rashtriya E-Pustakalay, and under NBT it has now grown to more than 6,000 books. So again, many of us might be thinking that reading a book is a better experience than seeing it on a screen. Perhaps so. But what the library gives us is anytime reading. We can read it anytime we want, any place we want. It's a treasure in your hands. For a book, you have to go buy it somewhere, get it from a library. This is in your iPads or your mobile phones. In schools, we are requesting all schools to have it on their ICT labs. In all their computers, Rashtriya Pustakalay should be downloaded. It has books in every language. Any publishers here also should take note of it and join it. We are anticipating, foreseeing a time where publishers or authors, it will be a good, it will be aspirational for them that they are featured on the Rashtriya Pustakalay. That is where it will reach. So I hope during the 2 days even that is discussed, and I do congratulate NBT for taking the New Delhi Book Fair by leaps and bounds to 10x its size in maybe 10 years. One can get lost. If you start moving between the stalls, it's a maze. You won't be able to come back to your original place, and you don't need to. So just go buy books, and I hope we create more book lovers down the age. REP, one more thing I would like to say, we started for developing the reading habit in youth. But now we have found out from the feedbacks that even grandparents or parents, because children below 8 years of age, nobody would recommend that they start reading from a screen. But their grandparents or parents, they can read out stories from the Rashtriya Pustakalay. So even they are using it. And many of the books featured are such that any age, it's not for youth, it is for all. So Rashtriya Pustakalay is for all. That is one thing I would like to say. So may the tribe of readers grow, and those of you who don't have a habit, please develop it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. May I now invite our guest of honor, Shri Rajshekhar Joshi, Vice Chairman, Setu Ayog, Government of Uttarakhand, an IIT Computer Science graduate. He brings over 3 decades of rich experience in public policy, business and technology, leadership across India and abroad. He writes and speaks on social, governance and economic subjects in renowned publications. Sir, we request you to kindly deliver your address.
Shri Sanjay Kumar ji, Shri Malik ji, Srimati Avasthi ji, and other colleagues on the dais, and distinguished guests on the front row, as well as the very diverse audience I can see, ranges from young people, young to old, and very bright faces in the cold Delhi morning. So it's indeed very auspicious for the beginning of this dialogue. Thank you, NBT, for inviting me to be the guest of honor out here. And it was indeed a matter of great personal happiness for me to be part of this event, as I've been also coming in World Book Fair earlier, and also part of one of the largest publishing companies, Macmillan, long back, has been some sort of association with the book fair. The topic, reading, Samvāad 2026, Reading India Samvāad 2026. As I said, it evokes a lot of personal memories in me. In my long journey from town Nainital to Roorkee, IIT, and then the corporate world all over India and abroad, public policy, Government of India, and now from being president in one of the largest corporate groups to running the planning commission for the state of Uttarakhand. When I go back to my childhood, I think reading shaped me immensely because my father was professor and I had access to the university library. And I could read, I did read, books like even Mayor of Casterbridge, Anna Karenina, to Mahabharat, almost all the Parvas I read, all the 18 ones, by the time I was 10. And the kind of immense, I would say, of course, you don't understand many things at that age. You come to know later on. I must say that the way it shaped me is something which is a great foundation which is there. And today also I do that, despite all the multi-city schedules and so on. I always spent 2 to 3 hours every evening studying, reading, and whether it could be notes, whether it could be books, articles, and so on and so forth. And as Ms. Avasthi told me that we must inculcate the reading, I think one of the biggest joys for me recently was when my son, who is doing film studies, he said he doesn't read books much, but he said, I want to read books. And I can understand a boy in Bandra West, because that's where my another home is, wanting to read a book and completing it. It was a great joy for me. So personally, so it's been a journey very much shaped by reading. And as Mr. Malik also said just before me, as that and some takeaway that the drashti and drishtikon and vyakti and vyaktitva, I think it's so important, especially in today's world. Even the book I am reading right now, it's a very interesting book. It's a book on the leadership legacy of the Prime Minister, written by a good friend of mine, R. Balasubramaniam. And I must tell you that the book is not just about because he's a sitting Prime Minister and so all the nice things you talk and hear. It's about the philosophy. It's about what, the underpinnings and so on and so forth. And the kind of joy of learning it has given me, which is there. So personally reflecting, nothing, as I said, is more satisfying than that. And reading is more important today than ever because of two things. One is, of course, the distractions we have immensely, the digital distractions, you would say that, because all of us spend considerable time on mobile phones and so on and so forth. And the second is the inequities in society, where a lot of young children across, it's not just Delhi and Bombay and even in these cities, but across in smaller cities, villages. I spend a lot of time in our villages in Uttarakhand, where people do not have, and we all know that, the statistics that the class 5 children cannot comprehend for class 3 and so on and so forth, it's all well known, which is there. And there are so many initiatives the government of India is doing, Nipun Bharat and so, which is there. But having said it, it's so important. There is no way we can become a Vishwaguru if we continue to have such kind of an educational, profile for our generations to come. So this is not just a issue of reading, statistics, literacy, surface level literacy statistics and so on. It's an issue of a nation's direction. It's an issue of a nation's strength. It's an issue of our civilization. It's an issue of India's progress. So it's such as fundamental as matter as it can be. So I think, and where reading is so important. And we all know that, of course, there are statistics that if you inculcate reading in the early age, then the academic standards are better, and it continues throughout your life. So that's also there. And how do you inculcate reading? Of course, you have to address the foundational issues which are there in the children. And also, as far as the elders go, the libraries, I think e-library, as she stated, libraries are so important. I still remember when I was a child, we had the municipal library in Nainital, and I used to spend good amount of time there. So, but they have to be, some people are very dogmatic still. I hear about that. They want libraries which are just libraries, books, and nothing else out there. But I think we have to be not dogmatic, but we have to be pragmatic with times. And the libraries, what we all talk today, have also be not just, a sort of a silent room to a living ecosystem. So 3 thoughts which I have very, very clearly in my mind, which I like to share. One is the libraries have to evolve from a silent room to a living ecosystem. You have to have community, you have to have involved families, you have to have technology also out there. So that unless and until we do that, in any profession and any vocation, if we don't have technology, the fact is that it's very difficult for it to sustain in a significant way. And people will not take a sense of pride, people will not take a sense of accomplishment if we are not in tune with technology. So this notion that you only have to just flip the paper all the time and that's reading, I think it can be for some people, a good number of people maybe, and a good thing to do at the same time. But I don't think that's good enough to move the needle. The libraries have to move with times, so that's very important. The second is the technology, which is a distraction today in many, many ways. But actually technology is the greatest enabler and the greatest driver of society and economy today. So you cannot ignore it. So you have to design it, as they say, rather than having it outside the tent and just thinking it is a distraction, you have to bring it within it. So how can you use technology? Of course, it can be used in many ways, as you say, combination of digital and physical, what you call phygital, as well as ability to read in book and in the digital form, ability to analyze for children what are the learning patterns and so on and so forth, and use that. Technology is a great, is definitely, the way it can personalize education, the way it can be, it's no longer like fit for all, but you can actually analyze the trends for each student and so on and so forth, and craft the lesson plans, and as they all say that, which is there. So you can use it in terms of not just the distraction, but a design, the part of the learning. And the third thing is that combining the reading and the technology, reading design to reading pathways, that how each student, I think that's where I'm certain that many interventions are on, that how do we look at the reading pathways, what kind of books students are willing to read, and what kind of books are they willing to refer, they are referring, what are they reading digitally, what are they, and let's face it, the modern generation, I straddle, as I said, from Uttarakhand to Bombay and to Delhi and all over. Technology has to be there. You cannot, this generation is an iPhone generation, the Gen Z or whatever, comes forward. So it's an integral part of life. So you have to, it has to be the part of it. It's called learning bytes, learning chunks, byte-based learning, and so on and so forth. All that has to be part of, reading pathways, which is there. So 3 things are extremely important as I go forward, as I say, going forward. One is the libraries have to evolve from a silent room to an ecosystem, a living ecosystem, which is there. The second is that technology has to be effectively used. And the third, and wherever it is, and I can tell you it's used. There's one small example I'll give you. I spent good time in Dehradun, which is the capital, but I spent good time in districts. And in my home district in Devidhura in Champawat district, I actually, there is a school in the name of my mother. And I got it rebuilt, and it is like 6,500 feet above the sea level. And very, very, can say, I won't say backward, but yes, many things had to happen there. And I introduced a smart classroom there in that Shishu Mandir, which is it. And the children have taken so much, naturally to it. So they're reading the book, but they are accessing the internet through the smart classroom. And I feel so much joy when I go there and see that, when they are not just reading the books, which are there, of course, as part of the syllabus, but they're accessing the learning resources. So this is something which I have lived for years in front of my eyes, which is there. So this is a great multiplier. Absolutely, technology is a great multiplier, but it has to be part of design and, of course, done correctly, like anything else which is there. So as I said, library, and the second was technology from distraction to design. And the third is, as I said, that we have to personalize, so it's reading pathways for each children. So those kind of models have to be built up. But reading has a great future. I can tell you that, like everything we say, in the 90s used to say children are this, that. But I see so many young teenagers in Bombay itself, who are so spiritual, who want to read books. So there is a great future for reading, I can tell you that. But yes, it has to be designed well. It has to be part of the life. It has to have technology. It has to move ahead with the times, which is there. So having said it, thank you so much again for inviting me. And I must say that I'm so encouraged to see all of you out here. And I'm sure reading has a great future. It will continue to have a great future, despite a lot of saying that the print is dead and it's going to be dead. I don't think that's going to happen. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. May I now invite our chief guest, respected Shri Sanjay Kumar, Secretary, Ministry of Education, Government of India, renowned for his extensive experience in health, education, and youth affairs. He has been a driving force in implementing the National Education Policy 2020, enhancing school infrastructure, in strengthening teacher capacity, and ensuring quality, accessible education for every student in the country. Sir, we request you to kindly enlighten us with your wisdom.
I'm very scared of the word wisdom. Mr. Rajshekhar Joshi, our Additional Secretary in the Department of School Education and Literacy, Ministry of Education, Srimati Archana Sharma Avasthi, Shri Yuvraj Malik, CEO of NVT, Shri Kumar Bikram. I presume all of us who are here in this hall, we are all book lovers, we are all readers. So I'm very happy to be here with you this morning. And I was listening to the 3 speakers who spoke before me, and I was thinking that all we speak is because of what we have read in the past. Because the collective memory comes from reading. So all the nice things which Yuvraj ji said about as a philosopher, it, to a very large extent, it gets determined from what he has read. And just as I walked in, I saw the message of the Honorable Prime Minister that nation which reads, it progresses. And I think this is such a lovely time of the year in Delhi. Today is Makar Sankranti. Today also happens to be the Army Day, because on 15th January 1949, General Karyappa replaced being the commander-in-chief of the British one. I think that was General Busher. I would recollect the name. I'm just trying to remember. But this is the significance of the day. Today is also the birthday of Martin Luther King Jr. And we all remember the great speech he made, I have a dream. All of us, we have a dream. And all of us want to do many things. It's a great occasion to be here, reading India Samvāad 2026. That's what you call this thing. But I must compliment NBT, led by Colonel Yuvraj Malik, that for giving us this wonderful opportunity. You walk into a large hall and you see so many publishers, so many books, so many diverse ideas. And I always say that nothing looks better than a wall full of books. You might have the world's best painting, you may get the best of the kind of curated objects in your drawing room, but if you have a wall full of books, it looks colorful, it looks full of ideas, and I think it is just about the best presentation you can have anywhere in the world. As a child, I used to watch Star Trek, and I used to see Spock the Vulcan, and I used to envy him because, he could touch the head of the other guy, and he could read the mind. And I said, oh my God, I don't have this power. But then I realized that reading a book is being Mr. Spock. You are actually reading a book and delving into someone else's mind. So I was just been given a book by Franz Kafka. So if you read it, then actually you are touching Kafka's mind and you are delving into his mind and seeing the kind of processes which were there in his mind. Read his ideas and what he wants to say. The other thing I want to say is that, let me relate a few things from my personal experience. As a child, when I was in school, my English teacher, she converted one of our English class into a library class. And every week in that particular period, we were taken to the library, and she would insist that we get a book issued in our name. And she would write it down on a sheet of paper that so-and-so has got so-and-so book. We were given a time of 1 week to read it. And next week, when we went to the library, she would ask us that, which book have you taken? If we could not read the book in a week's time, then we used to tell her that, ma'am, can I have 1 more week? Because I have not been able to read the book. But she was not satisfied with that. After we had read the book, she would ask us to write at least 1 page on what we had read. We read, and we also got into the idea of précis writing. How do you condense a book in a page and actually come out with these salient points? We hated her. But now when I look back, I realize that what a beautiful journey she led us onto. We got into the habit of reading, and we started enjoying, and I think life has been very beautiful after that. I read a lot of things, so let me recall a few things. I don't know how many of you remember reading Sudarshan's short story, Har Ki Jeet, where Baba, the Daku Khadak Singh, takes away the horse. And he says कि ये बात किसी को मत बताना क्योंकि लोगों का गरीब आदमी पर से विश्वास उठ जाएगा. And the line which Sudarshan writes is, उन्होंने निज की हानि को सार्वजनिक हानि के लिए निछावर कर दिया. This is a book I must have read 50 years back, but I recall because it impacted me as a child. Then we read Panch Parmeshwar by Premchand. And the old lady tells that, क्या बिगाड़ की बात से ईमान की बात नहीं कहोगे. आप लोगों को याद है या नहीं है, आज भी when I feel, मैं महसूस करता हूँ कि मैं थोड़ा कमज़ोर हो गया हूँ, तो मुझे ये लाइन याद आती है, it gives me strength. It gives me strength and it tells me something, that there is something which is beyond me. I must stand up to that ideal. Or when Hamid, in the story Eidgah, उसके पास सिर्फ 3 पैसे हैं, but he doesn't buy a toy. He buys a chimta for his grandmother because he feels that when he knows that every time she picks up the roti from the fire, she burns her fingers. What a beautiful thought. And then let me read one line from you from A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. I think it has one of the best opening any book can have. That's what they say. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times, it was the age of wisdom, it was the age of foolishness, it was the epoch of belief, it was the epoch of incredulity, it was a season of light and it was a season of darkness, it was a spring of hope and it was a winter of despair. Beautiful lines, but you know what it taught? It tells us that life always is a mix. You will never have unalloyed happiness at any time. You will have happiness and you will have grief. You will have foolishness and you have wisdom. And the idea is to be able to live with it. And this is what books tell you. This is what books make you internalize when you start reading. And as Yuvraj ji said, that you start thinking about as to what you have read. So I would say that to a very large extent, whatever we are, to a very large extent, is dependent on the fact that what we have read. What we have read, what we have internalized, and how we bring that knowledge into our own lives to determine the way we are going to live and deal with others. So very interesting. I would say a few sarkari things also, let me. So the first thing is that, if you go around, you will find that a large number of books are in English. And we have a National Education Policy 2020, which very clearly says that you must start learning in your mother tongue. And mother tongue could be anything. It could be any of the 22 languages which are part of the Schedule 8 in the Indian Constitution. And best cognition comes from there. But it also talks about the power of multilingualism. It tells you that learning one language is not sufficient. You must know as many languages as possible. But you must begin in your mother tongue. I think we need to think about it. We need to write more books in our local languages, Bharatiya Bhasha, and as and when you walk into a book fair, you should see books in as many languages as possible. I think it is happening, but can we accelerate it? Can we encourage authors who can write in different languages? But then authors will only write if they're going to get readership. So people also must start reading in different languages. The second point which I want to say is also that there is a need to read beyond what is being taught in the classrooms, which is part of your curriculum and which is part of your syllabus. Someone shared with me the data, the Guild of Publishers. And they say that if you look at the Indian publishing market, 71% is school textbooks. 25% is higher education textbooks. Only 4% is what you are seeing down there. Can this 4% become 10% in due course of time? This is the question I have in my mind. And I think we need to write more. And, Yuvraj is a great friend of mine because I always look forward to his visits to my office because he always gets a book to me and I feel very greedy that this time what book is he going to get for me? And we keep talking about it. And I think one of the things which we talk about the fact is that, during COVID times, a lot of people were holed in at their homes. Many of them started writing. And I think we should do a bit of a research and find out whether the outpouring of people's imagination actually did take place during the COVID time or not. but we must write. And I was very happy to see that there was an entire wall on military history. Some of the things which we don't do as a nation, we need to become more strategic. We need to start thinking about things which matter to us. So we need to basically become a society which is strategic. It has a long-term vision. Thinks 50 years ahead, thinks 25 years ahead. I'm fascinated by the fact that London got its first metro in 1866. Delhi got its first metro in 2004. So sometimes I ask myself this question that, did this happen because we are a poor country and they had the money? I don't think so. That is the right answer. In 1860s, they could foresee as to what the city is going to be 50 years later or maybe 100 years later, and they went below the ground. This is the kind of a strategy which we must evolve amongst our culture. And this is going to come if we start reading. If you're going to start reading, we start discussing things and start discussing as to what is going to affect us, let's say 20 years from now or maybe 50 years from now. And I'm very happy to say that the Honorable Prime Minister has given us a vision which is just 22 years ahead of us as of now. How do we become a developed country by the year 2047? That is the question. And that we are going to do only if we start reading, if we start teaching, and the learning outcomes in our classrooms improve. People read and they understand and they learn to critically question what they are learning. This is extremely important. I was watching a video by Jeffrey D. Sachs, and he was asked a question that how do you determine a society is progressing? And he says that look for 4 things if you want to know whether a society is progressing or not. A, are children learning in the classrooms? B, are they innovating? And if you are learning and if you are innovating, then the third thing follows. Are you inventing things? And the fourth one he said was that is the household income increasing, because that is the basis of all investment. And I was struck by the fact that of the 4 things, 3 is being done by Ministry of Education. It's such an important job all of us we are performing, and it makes me a little scared also. That such an onerous job is there. But then we must learn. We must learn to question and we must learn to innovate. And if you see the geopolitics of today, the geopolitics of today is basically something to do with how energy transition is taking place. Where is the energy going to come from? And how technology is being managed. Everything is based on knowledge economy. And knowledge is going to come from hard work. It is going to come from being a strategic thinker, creating things for yourself. So what you need to become is Atmanirbhar. And how do you become Atmanirbhar? By being driven by the philosophy of Swadeshi. So there are a lot of things, there are a lot of discourse going on in the society, but everything is based on the fact that you have knowledge, and all the knowledge is downstairs in all the books. Somebody has to read it and find out. And what you read today, you just don't know when it is going to happen. Boolean algebra came about 100 years back. But the binary 0 and 1, the computer system which came up on that, it came up in the 1950s, almost after 100 years. Somebody had read, somebody had remembered, and something happened. So you don't know what may happen if you know something. So without questioning, just get to know of it. I know I'm talking a little too much, but I'm going to end with something which is a quotation by Newton, which I think he's been one of the brightest mind we've had in the world. And this is what he said about himself. Quote, "I do not know what I may appear to the world, but to myself I seem to have been only like a boy playing on the seashore, and diverting myself in now and then finding a smoother pebble or a prettier shell than ordinary, whilst the great ocean of truth lay all undiscovered before me. This is what Newton says. This is what knowledge brings to you. It brings you humility. So the more you know, as Yuvraj said, the more you discover that there's so much more to know. So let us begin on this journey of learning. I'm so happy to be here speaking to you, and on this bright, wintry day in Delhi, and I wish you happy reading. The last thing I want to tell you before I go is that while I was sitting here, I got an idea that we have PM Shri schools in all the district headquarters. So I was thinking that maybe, can I make a fantastic library in each of these schools? So the children, of course, they profit from it, but as and when the school shuts down, can I open it to the public? So there is a public library each and every school. I would be happy to hear from you, and I think all of us would work on that. My compliments to Archana ji also for managing the National Digital Library so well. I think we need to use the digital platform as well to read as much as possible. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Happy reading.
Thank you, sir. As we conclude this segment, I would like to invite Chief Editor and Joint Director of National Book Trust, Shri Kumar Vikram sir, to address his vote of thanks.
Thank you. Today we have had, I would say, really enlightening and great speeches from our chief guest, Shri Sanjay Kumarji. It is always a delight to hear him. We have many opportunities to hear him at our platforms, and he has been a great pillar of support for us. And thanks a lot, sir, for being with us on this occasion. I would also be expressing my gratefulness to Shri Raj Shekhar Joshi ji, the Vice Chairman, Setu Ayog Government of Uttarakhand, for his enlightening speech and for guiding the young crowd who are here for the deliberations under the reading Samvāad. Srimati Archana Sharma Avasthi, Additional Secretary, Ministry of Education, has been a great pillar of support for us, especially for streamlining the RAP, and I'm very, very thankful to her on behalf of National Book Trust India for being with us on this occasion and for addressing the audiences. I would also express my my gratitude to our director for guiding us to organize this reading Samvāad, which is, I would say, a part of the initiative of National Book Trust India. The original initiative, the mandate of National Book Trust India, which the forefathers of National Book Trust India gave, was to provide not only the books at the affordable rates, but also to work as a book hospital. In the very first meeting of the Board of Trustees, this term had come. So to work as a book hospital, and this is a part of the, I would say, the same mandate, where the continuous engagement with the idea of books that we do. On this occasion, I would express my best wishes and congratulations to the team led by Shri Imranul Haq, the sales head of National Book Trust India, and Ms. Achal and the team for conceptualizing it and for organizing it. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir. I thank all our guests for their valuable time and precious words.